Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Lessons of the Woods by 10 Point Whitetails. We are back. I am your host, Dillan Porter, and with me I have our co-host, Kyle Weber, and we are ready to talk about a topic that angers nearly every Minnesota deer hunter and probably every Wisconsin deer hunter to my knowledge. Let's talk about the DNR.
Oh, the ways of which we could start.
So, I don't know. We might get canceled. DNR might target us for this, but I don't care anymore because the election's over for governor of Minnesota. It all went south. Hunting in Minnesota is going to be over. So, well, it's not going to be over, but I'm a little bit negative at the moment. We're going to be okay. Minnesota DNR have too much power. We're going to discuss a lot of that. Wisconsin DNR has too much power, or they misuse it, as Minnesota does. We're going to talk about that. So do you want to go first or should I? How do we want to do this?
You go right ahead.
Oh, I don't even know where to start. I got issues upon issues. For starters, this is interesting. This isn't the DNR, but Tim Walz did come forward and say in the 4 years he is going to be governor, he will never support a wolf season in Minnesota. Great. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's fantastic because we got wolves everywhere in the northern half of the state. But guess what? They don't bother the people in the Twin Cities, so who cares, right? The people in the Twin Cities who hold all the power in Minnesota, their dogs aren't getting killed by timber wolves. They don't care if the deer get killed by timber wolves. They don't care. So we get to suffer. But we're not talking about wolves this time. I've been there, done that. I'll do it again. Not today. We are going to talk. Go ahead.
There's an experience I had when I was sitting with you. Actually, I wasn't sitting with you. I was sitting in one of your stands at your dad's property. And I heard the wolves and coyotes take off one night. And it was the most eerie feeling to feel like they're right here around you the whole entire time. It is the scariest thing. Wisconsin, in my area, we do not have it like that. But it is 100% terrifying to experience what you guys experienced. And to have seen what the trail cameras and people that farm out there and hunt out there and what they've experienced with them, right there, that is terrifying. And when you're sitting in a tree stand at dark 30 waiting to get out and you hear them light up, you almost want to stay there at night. What you guys have out there is a huge problem. So
it's a 110 to 150 pound apex predator that will eat whatever it wants. And if it happens to be you, too bad. We could talk a long time about wolves. We're not going to do that because you can't shoot them anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Management, the DNR's management of whitetail and the whitetail season. Go.
So, lots of issues with the Minnesota DNR. With their mismanagement of the whitetail herd. In a brief glimpse at some numbers that I found online before we started recording, current numbers as of 2021 or 2020, there is an estimated whitetail deer population of 1 million deer in the state. That's a lot. It's a lot of deer. Actually, it sounds pretty good. However, I talked to a lot of guys in the Bemidji area, Grand Rapids area. They don't see any deer. There's no deer. They see wolves. They don't see deer. So, I'm going to get to this in a second. 1 million deer in the state. Guess how many licenses they sold in 2021 to residents? There might have been non-residents on their list too, but the list I saw for rifle, archery, and muzzleloader came out to a little over 800,000 licenses. So, only about 31% of hunters are successful, according to the Minnesota DNR's numbers, of registered whitetail deer, which is horrible. I'm sorry, guys, that's awful. Or you're just not registering your deer. I don't blame you. I don't condone breaking the law, but I don't blame you. Does that work? Am I clear on that? Like, I'm not going to get in trouble for saying that, or will I? What do you think?
You can't promote or persuade. But
it doesn't upset me, but you shouldn't do it. Register your deer so the DNR can get their numbers straight so we can take care of our deer herd in the state. I'm not absolving the DNR of blame. They should not plan on selling 80% of the deer herd every year. That's horrible. I don't care if they're successful or not. 80%, that's a money grab. That's a full money grab. Okay, now that I said that, if you read this, you couldn't drop a 17-year-old boy off or girl in Minnesota, hand them this and $2,000 and say, good luck, go have fun, don't break any laws. You can't do it. You can't do it. There's been a post floating around the Minnesota Hunting Club Facebook page group, and I had the same question. So I asked when I bought my license at the gas station where I purchased my licenses. We can purchase licenses at gas stations and hardware stores in Minnesota where they are semi-trained people working there. This is not a knock on any of the people at my gas stations or hardware stores. They are not fully trained DNR employees. They are gas station and hardware store employees selling licenses for hunting in Minnesota. I don't know what training they receive. I don't think it's a lot. Okay? So, the question going around is, in Minnesota, you can buy, my zone specifically, lots of zones, but my zone specifically, I know you can buy a you can buy an archery tag, antlered archery, you can buy antlered rifle, you can buy antlered muzzleloader. If you shoot a deer with antlers in any of those seasons, you're done on the other 2 seasons. So I shot my buck with my bow. I can't shoot a buck. I cannot, unless party hunting, which there are rules for that. There's ways to be legal with that. I cannot shoot a buck with my rifle or my muzzleloader. Okay? With my license. I can't even buy a rifle license for myself at this point. Okay? So I bought my my archery tag for buck, and I bought my bonus tag. And the bonus tag does not say archery on it. It just says bonus tag. So the question is, that's been floating around, if I shoot a buck with my bow and I still have my bonus tag, can I shoot my doe with a rifle? Okay, let's turn to the rule book. Okay? So, a person may purchase no more than one firearm, muzzleloader, and archery deer license in a calendar year. Okay? One of each. You can only fill one, but one of each. Bonus, early antlerless season, and disease management permits may be purchased in addition to regular licenses. Bonus permits may be purchased throughout the season, but must be in possession when taking a deer. So you have to have your bonus permit on your person when you harvest a deer to fill the bonus permit. That's easy enough. They don't say it that way, but it's easy enough. Okay? Then you go on. Regular licenses and bonus permits may be used in any order. No problem. Easy to understand. Then it says, for more information on the early antler season, doesn't apply to me. See a different page. See another page for details where disease management permits can be used. Also does not apply to me. And then it says, a person may not take or tag a deer without the appropriate license or permit. The term take includes attempting to take deer, deer drive, spotting, or otherwise assisting another person in taking a deer. So, does it say on there in the section about license purchase and validity, does it say in there anywhere that if you shoot a buck with your bow, you have to buy a rifle tag to not fill it, but to use your bonus tag with a rifle? Because there's 2 schools of thoughts on the Facebook post asking this question. One group says, if you shot a buck with your bow and you want to use your bonus tag for rifle, you have to buy a rifle tag even though you can't fill it, which is like a $40 donation to the Minnesota DNR. No. Pretty sure that's not how it is. Regulations, their book, page 60, doesn't say anything about it. They just say you have to have the bonus tag on you when you harvest a deer. So, does that mean I have to buy a rifle tag to fill my bonus tag with a rifle? I don't think so. In fact, I went to try to buy a rifle tag I went to try and buy a rifle bonus tag because I thought I bought an archery bonus tag. It does not say on the tag whether it's a bonus for archery or bonus for rifle. It just says bonus. I went to the gas station. Their screen would not let me buy a rifle tag because I'd already shot and harvested and registered my bow tag. So, being as I can't purchase the rifle tag, does that mean it's illegal for me to shoot a doe with my bonus tag with a rifle or muzzleloader? I don't think so. I believe, based on what little information I can gather, that I could just shoot as long as I legally harvest the deer with the bonus tag, I can just legally harvest the deer with the bonus tag. Right? Doesn't say season on the bonus tag, just says bonus deer. Actually, probably bonus resident white-tailed deer, but antlerless.
But can you hunt gun season without a gun license?
That's the question. I can't even buy a gun license, but I can fill my bonus tag with a rifle.
Right. But can you gun hunt without a license?
Does a bonus tag count as a rifle license?
I would admit, I personally would say not, because the bonus tag is a tag.
That's our license. Our license and tag is interchangeable in Minnesota. It's a bonus license.
Okay.
That camera froze again. I'm still here.
No, that's a pretty funny look there.
That is a funny look. I need to change that. But it doesn't make any sense. Nothing makes sense. And then people
when you shoot your buck, have you voided the bonus tag? Is the bonus tag ripped up and
No, it's still usable. So it doesn't make any sense. So the answers on the post, I think my other camera's booting back up. There it is. The answers on the post are saying both these items. One side is saying, no, you have to have a rifle license to shoot a deer with your bonus license. That's a doe. You have to buy a buck tag, which is a free donation to the DNR, because you can't fill it, right? You already filled your archery tag. The other group says, no, like I do, that you don't need to do it. And both groups say they've talked to the DNR. That means the DNR officers, they don't know the rules either. Because that's pretty ambiguous. It doesn't say anything. Why can't they put a line in there that says, you must have a rifle buck tag to shoot a deer with your bonus tag with a rifle? They don't say that anywhere in here. Okay? So that's complaint number one. There's no information in here that tells you what you need to know. They don't do it. Okay? They don't even include the zone map in here this year, at least not that I could find. They usually include it. Maybe somebody ripped out mine, or I just don't get one. So, do you want to talk baiting in Minnesota? This is great. This is fantastic. So in Minnesota, it's illegal to bait white-tailed deer. Okay? They have a whole page. It's orange. Pretty important. Okay. So Minnesota, the reason we say it's illegal to bait, disease transmission, which is a whole bunch of crap, but whatever. Deer congregate in the winter. They all eat off the same food source anyway. Okay? They do. They're very social animals. They lick and groom each other. I don't have a problem with baiting personally. I think if you're filling your tags legally and you're not shooting more deer than you're supposed to, bait all you want. I don't care. They don't let you feed deer in a lot of Minnesota anymore, which is also ridiculous. Why can't we feed the deer? Minnesota winters suck. They suck. 40 below. Nobody enjoys it. Why can't we just, feed the deer? Doesn't make sense. But whatever. So, baiting. Where does it say? I bet there used to be a sentence. Maybe they removed it, but it used to say, what is bait? Okay. It used to say, I'm skimming, you may not hunt in the vicinity of bait. What's vicinity? So the whole section on baiting here, okay? It just says you may not hunt. Hunters are not allowed to take deer with the aid or use of bait. Okay? Baiting attracts deer, causes disease, alters the deer's natural movement. By placing bait, one hunter can effectively nullify another hunter's attempt to harvest a deer. No, not really. Because if you're baiting, and they're baiting, and everybody's baiting, it doesn't matter. What is bait? Food that has been placed by a person, more or less. And that's then doe urine.
That's a huge argument in Wisconsin. would it be better to not have baiting? I personally don't care if you bait or not. I do know when one person baits, it changes and affects deer movement and deer structure in the woods. But once you start baiting, you're on plane with everybody else. Like, yes, does it affect it? Does it change a deer's route? Does it change a deer's timeline? Yes. But if you start baiting, you have the same ability as them. So at the end of the day, your ability and your availability to hunt and to shoot an animal is the same as that other person. If you choose not to bait, and that person's baiting, you go, well, it's not fair, they're baiting. Okay, fine. I understand that argument, but you're choosing not to. That's like me going out in the woods and using a longbow and being like, it's not fair that you're using a compound. You're making that choice to lessen your ability or your chances using the equipment, et cetera, et cetera. We talk about Kentucky, Iowa, Ohio. I'll look it up, but they can just about have their way with this. They have feeders that are gravity feeders. They dump it on the ground. You can see down in like Kentucky where they put fences up, so the deer actually have to jump inside the fence to eat on the feeder, and that's to keep, I'm sure, keep the hogs out, etc. Because hogs can't jump, deer can.
Yep.
But you see pictures of these outfitters. They just got big feeders that they fill every day. There's no CWD down there. The baiting argument. Sorry to Jack.
Keep going. I figured out a few things that I'll say.
It drives me nuts because, okay, fine, you don't want us to bait because of CWD because it's transferable, and the more they touch the nose, the more they touch saliva, the prions move between the bodies, deer get CWD. Whatever fairy tale you want to believe with that, fine. The deer touch noses, they lick each other, they groom each other, they do all sorts of weird stuff in the woods naturally. But if you're going to say we can't bait because of CWD transmissions, fine, stand and die on that hill. We can't bait. In Wisconsin we can, but Minnesota, stand on the hill and die there. Fine. My argument is, how come in Wisconsin it's 2 gallons? How come it's okay? It's not bad enough where we can't bait because of CWD and transmissions, But it's not bad, but it's too bad that we can't let them go like Ohio, Kentucky, all these other states. How come that's not a thing? How come 2 gallons is the money spot where, well, we'll only have 1 deer in the bait pile at a time? No, you won't. What's the difference if I take a 50-pound sack of corn and spread it over 2 acres, and they browse through that, or I take 2 gallons and put it in one pile right in front of 20 yards away from my shot? Like, why is this?
It's arbitrary.
Arbitrary number of 2 gallons. What is that? What do you now? Even if the rules were a free reign, I would never say somebody backed their dump trailer up full of corn and dump it. Like, there should be a limit to like what's reasonable. Why is that 2 gallons? Because if you're doing that, you're picking 2 gallons not based on CWD and the health of the deer. You're basing it on a relevant amount that's fair and seems ethical to hunt over. Make that decision. It's not a dump truck full of corn. Fine. That's okay. Somebody wants to pay 2 tons of corn in a dump trailer and back it up to their food plot and dump it? What's the arbitrary number for? If you want to pick one, say it's because you just don't want to make it a silly. You don't want to make it silly like a dump truck trailer. But 2 gallons, and then you're trying to say, well, it's protecting the deer? There's like 6 counties in Wisconsin that allow you to bait still. Every other county below is no baiting. No feeding, no baiting. And it's fine. I just want you to pick one. If you're going to let us bait, pick a volume of what we can bait and tell me why is that volume. 2 gallons because of CWD? That makes no sense.
Nope.
If you're going to say 5 gallons because that's a arbitrary number and you just picked it, fine, okay, that's what it is. But don't saddle CWD to it. If you're going to say no baiting because of CWD, die on that hill and say no baiting. I don't actually care.
Yeah.
But then the conversation for me is, what is bait?
I can tell you, according to Minnesota.
Well, let me. Okay, based on those rules, let me ask you. I'm getting warmed up here. Corn placed on the ground is bait, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about bird seed?
Yep.
Under what?
So, what is bait? Literally, this is what it says. What is bait? Bait includes grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, hay, or other food that is capable of attracting or enticing deer that has been placed by a person. Do you know what that means? That sentence? That means food plots are bait.
Yeah.
Let me read that again. Variety of foods or other food that is capable of attracting or enticing deer and has been placed by a person. Did you place your food plot? So we can't bait, but we can plant food plots. But in the synopsis, under what is bait, it doesn't say food plots aren't bait. It says food placed by a human is bait. What? They just said it, food plots are bait. Guys, everybody broke the law this year. Because we all placed food plots. We all baited. What the heck?
So you could argue that, well, I have a farmer that uses my property as agriculture.
Oh, they have that in here too. I'll talk about that next. But yep.
Okay. So they can argue that, and you're saying there's a thing, but there's positives to food plots compared to corn. Corn is artificial. You take corn out there, you dump it, it's gone. The deer change back to their natural means of which they travel and operate. Go ahead.
Okay. So then they go through the ingredient label. And they also say liquid scents, dough and heat, sprays, salt, minerals are not bait. Those are not bait. But if they do not contain liquid or solid food products. So can't contain food products, it's not bait. Then they say read your ingredient label. Anything with food or attractants such as grains, fruits, sugar derivatives, glucose, dextrose, and fructose. So that means molasses is bait. If you have a mineral block that contains molasses, that's bait. You're baiting. You're bad. And then it says, agricultural crops from normal or accepted farming, forest management, and wildlife food planting. So before they said food plots were bait, now they're saying it's not bait. Sentences apart. Wildlife food plantings, orchard management, or other similar land management activities are not bait. Okay, so now we can do food plots. This exclusion does not apply to agricultural crops that have been reintroduced and concentrated where a person is hunting. Example, a person may spread an abundant agricultural crop on a previously planted field as fertilizer. You're going to dump your sugar beet tailings in your field for fertilizer. Guys do it all the time. Okay? They just grind them up in the field and they're done. However, if the fertilizer is piled or concentrated where the person is hunting deer, it is baiting. How close is where? If you're sitting 200 yards away from a pile of beet tailings, is that baiting? Where sounds like it's right where you're sitting. Right? Where are you hunting? Does that mean if it's within a mile? If you can see it? Is it baiting? That doesn't clear anything up. Okay. So, that's baiting. If your beet tailings are piled or concentrated where the person is hunting deer, it's baiting. Doesn't make sense to me, but okay. A person otherwise in compliance with this section who is hunting on private or public property that is adjacent to the property where bait or food is present is not in violation if the person has not participated in, been involved with, or agreed to baiting or feeding wildlife on the adjacent property. All bait must be removed for 10 days prior to hunting. So, why does bait have to be removed if you're not allowed to do it in the first place? That's kind of strange. That's weird. So it's kind of ambiguous. It doesn't really state. It just says you can't have it where you're hunting. Where define where you're hunting, Kyle. Is that the 50 yards around you? Is it the 200 yards around you? Is it 700 yards around you? Is it within sight? Is it a trail between you and the food? Define that for me, please.
I have no idea. I where you hunt, where your dad's property is, where your house is.
Mm-hmm.
If you stuck yourself up 10 feet up in the air, you can see something on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's eggs, somebody cut their corn, beets, tailings, winter wheat. I mean, it's within sight. It's definitely within gun range.
So
now, I don't recommend you shoot over the highway.
No.
But any of all of that is right there. So if right behind your house there's a big field, if those deer are bedded up by your property and they're walking through your yard or through your property to that field, aren't you using that as bait?
No. So this is actually legal, okay? So as it says here, right? So if you're hunting on private or public property that's adjacent to property where, for using their terms, they say fertilizer is piled up, let's say pile of beet tailings. Or agricultural refuse is another one they've used in the past. So let's say farmer across the road from my dad had, or from somebody's hunting land, not even across the road, adjacent property. Let's say a farmer had a truckload, a semi-truckload of grain that went moldy on him. And he's like, I need to clean out the bin. It's a semi-truckload that went moldy. I'm just going to go dump it on the edge of this field for the wild deer. Okay, perfectly legal. He didn't do anything wrong. He's not baiting. He just dumped it there because he doesn't want it in his yard. It's rotting deer. It's rotting corn. It stinks. It's bad. It's perfectly legal if you're on the adjacent property to sit 10 feet from the property line and shoot deer on your property going back and forth, according to the regs here from what I understood. Let me read that section again. A person otherwise in compliance with this section who is hunting on private or public property that is adjacent to the property where bait or food is present is not in violation if the person has not participated in, been involved with, or agreed to baiting or feeding wildlife on the adjacent property. That's legal baiting, apparently. What the heck? Guys, none of this makes sense. It's so arbitrary and so stupid. Why can't they say, you may not hunt within 500 feet of a concentrated food source that was dumped there by a human being? Why is that not? Why isn't that
because
just a sentence?
Because those lines are too distinct. Because then everybody's going to camp out 510 yards from that pile of tailings. From that, they don't want to be. They want it all perspective. They want it all from
You know why? You know why they want it ambiguous? So then it's up to the DNR officer. The DNR organization as a whole, I strongly dislike and believe is corrupt. The DNR officers, some of you guys, if any DNR officers listening to this, I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking your boss. I'm not even attacking. I'm disagreeing angrily with your boss and your organization. There's good DNR officers out there. There's good guys out there, good women out there who want to make the deer population, they want to help the wildlife be better. But these rules that are ambiguous make you guys look bad. And the reason they're ambiguous is so you use your own judgment as a DNR officer. Is he in vicinity, or is this bait where he's hunting? Is it where he's hunting? That's up to your judgment. Okay, so now you write a ticket. Well, actually, what's the penalty for hunting over bait? They have that here too. Penalties for baiting violations. Revocation and confiscation. A person may not, if you get caught hunting over bait, a person may not obtain a deer license or take a deer under a lifetime license for 1 year after the person is convicted of hunting deer with aid or use of bait. A second conviction within a 3-year period would result in a 3-year revocation of your license. The revocation period doubles if the conviction is for a deer that is a trophy deer scoring higher than 170. Wait, it doubles if you shoot a big deer? So you can break the law on a little deer, we don't care as much, but if you break the law on a big deer, we're going to give you double the penalty. That's kind of stupid. Should be the penalty for baiting, period, right? You broke the law. Okay? Firearms and bows used to take the deer or aid with the use of bait will be seized and are subject to confiscation upon conviction. In some areas, deer feeding attractants are banned year-round. See page 82. So, there was a case, I believe, where a guy lost his hunting licenses. I think there was a fine involved. They maybe changed it. But he, a guy I know, I won't reveal his name, was sitting... He had his back to a barn. Came up to hunt with his family, leaning up against a barn. On the other side of that barn, 200 or 300 yards away, was an agricultural refuse pile, which means that the farmer who owned the barn, or the property, cleaned out his trucks. Just dumped it. It wasn't stuff he was going to use. Now, this hunter could not see that pile. Couldn't see it. DNR flew over deer season, saw orange, saw the pile, came down, gave him a ticket, took his gun, took his hunting privileges. Cool. He didn't even know it was there. He came up from the Twin Cities or out of state, I don't remember. Didn't even know it was there. Lost his hunting privileges for a year and his rifle. He didn't even know it was there. But it was where he was hunting. But you're telling me if this had been on somebody else's property, same location, let's just say there's a property line in there, according to this, wouldn't have been illegal. Would have been fine. He didn't know it was there. He fought it in court and he won. But the DNR like to have these ambiguous rules, so the officers write these tickets. Most guys are too scared to fight the DNR. They're like, oh, the DNR got me, well, whatever. And then they pay the fine, they deal with it. I heard of one guy who got his truck taken because he loaded a deer he shot over bait into his truck. They took his vehicle. You know what happens if you get caught driving drunk in Minnesota? Slap on the wrist. They don't really care. If you get caught shooting a deer over bait, they'll take your gun, they'll take your truck, they'll take your hunting privileges because you shot a deer with a mouthful of corn in it. From a moral standpoint, why is it worse, or ethical standpoint, why is it worse to shoot a deer over bait than it is to get caught driving, than to drive drunk where you're endangering people's lives? None of this makes sense, guys. The book is ambiguous. It's to make the DNR officers look bad, so they write bad tickets because nobody wants to fight them in court. I could probably find more to rant about, but I think it's your turn.
Thanks, I guess. It is a good point, and like I said, on the baiting factor, if you're not going to allow bait, define what bait is. Mm-hmm. Define it, and say no bait. Fine, that's your decision. Do or die by that statement. I would write something that says bait is something placed by humans in an unnatural situation, something along those lines. So like a bag of corn dumped in the middle of the woods. Corn ain't supposed to be there. But corn planted, a food plot planted, hunting around agriculture, if dumping tailings and residual is part of a normal farming practice, who cares if that farmer decides to plop it right there and somebody sits over it? It's part of a normal process in which farmers use, right?
Yeah, and when it says that you got to put a distance on it, it's got to have a distance.
Well, I wouldn't even say that.
But does it condemn an entire 160-acre field if the farmer dumped his beet tailings there? Does that say, well, you can't hunt it because that's where you're hunting? Is it the whole 160 acres, or is it the 400 yards around it, or 200 yards around it?
In my opinion, it wouldn't affect it because my statement would be a unnatural placement by a human of bait or attractant, and the bait could be defined by grains, cereals, corns, molasses, whatever. An unnatural, or dumping tailings and residuals from farming is a common natural practice. Mm-hmm. Now, if you dump it in the corner to benefit yourself to hunt off of, who cares? It's still a natural, not natural, but it's a common practice via farms. So I'd get rid of that. They can dump it anywhere they want because that's a normal practice for them to do.
It would be abnormal if they took it off that field and went and dumped it by their tree stand. But if this is a field where you're dumping it.
Yes. Yep. And that's what I mean. I would, if you're going to say no baiting, define what bait is and say baiting, the act of baiting is unnaturally dumping this bait in an unnatural place by humans. So if you go out in front of your tree stand in the middle of your 40-acre woods partial and dump a bunch of tailings, you're unnaturally putting it there.
Mm-hmm.
In Wisconsin right now, we can take 2 gallons of corn, dump it in a nice pile in the woods. That's unnatural. That has no business being there. But if I go shape my land, till it, fertilize it, do all this stuff, and plant turnips, radishes, clover, whatever I want, it's naturally there. There's sweat equity there. Now, people could argue that you cut down a forest, it's unnatural, blah, blah, blah. But it's a natural thing that will be there for the extension of the food plot. And if I don't till it up and replant it, the woods will naturally take it back. It's natural, and it's going to be consistent there. A pile of corn, after a week of deer eating on it, it's gone. It's unnatural. Nothing stays the same. So it's a very temporary thing. So my point is, define it that way in some form of legal-minded loopholes, get rid of it. But like you said, it's ambiguous because they want to have the discretion of the warden or the DNR officer able to do it. And that's tactical, and I don't like that. But if you
they got to put a distance on it. They got to put a distance, because here's different than where you're at, because you can't see that far where you're at. Certain places up here you can see that far. So if they're going to say you can't hunt over an agricultural refuse pile if it's where you're hunting, put a distance on it. That's all we're asking. So we say, oh, we're not breaking the law. We don't condemn the whole piece. Put a distance. Then we know we're not breaking the law. But if there's a property line in between, it can be 10 feet away. That doesn't matter. According to the regulations that I just read, right? Am I wrong? Yep. Why can't we just put a distance on it? Why is that so difficult? Come on, guys. Do better. Be better.
So I don't necessarily care whether it's bait or not bait. I don't care.
Me either.
Define it and be fair and logical with it. But one factor I hate, decide what you want with baiting. I want you to decide. The 2-gallon thing seems like it makes no sense. I don't understand why 2 gallons. Somebody explain to me why it's 2 gallons and how 1.75 gallons of corn doesn't spread CWD, but 2.25 gallons spreads CWD. Because that's what they say baiting cost. You know, baiting is CWD. So someone get me that. But one thing I have an issue with the management that the Wisconsin DNR has done since I was 14. So 15, 16 years. 18 if you include when I started going hunting with my family, not actually hunting myself, but just participating, is the experience in which a hunter receives during, I'm being specific, the 9-day rifle hunt. The experience in which we enjoy. If you asked every hunter a grade based on the deer that you've seen and the experience you had with other hunters, so public land, private land, give us a grade. I bet you if it's not a D+, it's even worse. I see people say, sat for 12 hours, sunrise to sunset, seen 2 deer. I sat all evening from noon to dark. I see nothing. People think this deer population is so high, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. Deer are so sparse and overhunted and overpressured by us. So what I want in the long scheme of things is the DNR, which they will never do, focus on the experience of the hunter. How can we have you have a good experience out there for the 9-day gun season? Well, let's see lots of deer, potentially have a chance at a big deer. Big whitetail, big racked whitetail. That's what we all want. We want to see lots of deer and potentially shoot a big one.
Even if you're a meat hunter, you want to see a big antlered deer.
Yep. And you're not going to say no to it. Oh, that one's too old. No, you're gonna harvest it. So 2021, over 600,000 hunters bought a tag, bought a license, because actually it's different than yours. We have license, and then there's tags underneath it. So your bonus tag that came with your archery license technically would be an archery bonus tag. You'd have to buy your gun license and then the tags that come with your gun license. Here. 600,000 hunters, over 600,000 people purchased a license in the state of Wisconsin for 2021 9-day rifle season. 309,000 animals were harvested and registered. 156,000 antler, 153,000 antlerless. Okay? So those are a big topic because some places they give out tags, some places they don't give out tags. It's totally fine. That's based on their management skills. They think there's too many deer here, they give more doe tags out. So where you said you're at like 80, you're 80% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a 1.1 million deer and 800,000 tags get sold. Imagine if everybody harvested. Holy buckets, the deer herd would be
gone.
So we have about what did I say? I don't remember now.
I think you said 1.6?
1.6 million deer in the state of Wisconsin. We are selling 600,000 licenses. Fine. Okay. 309 harvests. So every other person is shooting and harvesting an animal. 300,000 people are going home empty-handed. In 9 days, when there's 600,000 people out in the woods, what is going on? Like, I don't want 100% harvest rate, but how are we seeing? How is there not that many deer being harvested? Mm-hmm. We have 1.6. We're selling 600,000 tags. I would expect the harvest rates being higher.
I think you said 1.6. You have to verify that.
It's somebody on the podcast can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I want is my friends, my family to see animals, and you harvest the animal of your choosing.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we're not getting that. There's so many people not seeing any deer, and anytime there's a wolf involved or overhunting, the place is decimated and there's nothing you can hunt.
Yep.
So what I would like to see, the 9-day gun season is a joke at this point. Montana, you guys, how many days do you guys have?
We have a 9-day rifle season.
You have only 9 days also?
No.
Montana's starts on October 20th, ends November 27th.
Wow. Holy cow. Talk about taking some pressure off.
But what that does is it takes the pressure off. These deer get pecked at throughout the year, but they don't get hammered for 9 days. Such an interesting thing happened. I watch my cameras. They send them to me, Up until last weekend, when I was gone, or right before I left. I left on Tuesday. Half a dozen deer, to a dozen deer on camera, 400 photos in a night. You know how many deer pictures I got since Saturday? 14 pictures. Not 14 deer, 14 pictures of deer. And that camera's running, operating the whole time. These deer literally hear these people come in for that 9-day hunt when the woods just erupt. Everyone's in there. The doors are pounding. It's an absolute chaotic mess. Those deer don't move. Those bucks lay down and they will choose to starve for 9 days until it's quiet before they'll get up and go eat. There's deer that get harvested. That deer probably got bumped by somebody else stepping on his tail in his bed, blah, blah, blah. But if these deer can just go hide and we hammer them for 9 days and they just bed down, what's your experience? My tree stand would be an absolute boring sit. I would see nothing the whole time. And Dylan, you've seen from my cameras, you've seen from me hunting, it's it's glory. It's beautiful there. Deer everywhere, coming in and out during the day.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. Gun season hits, you'd think you'd think there's not a deer in the woods. So, why don't we stretch out that season to 20 days, to 30 days? Get the pressure off these animals. Let the people that only can hunt on weekends, they're not taking off of work. Or if they are, they can take off beginning of November or the end of November based on
their schedules.
What their work allows.
Yeah.
But they hammer this tradition of the 9-day gun season in northern Wisconsin where everybody hits the woods and goes to camp. Well, I'm sorry, Wisconsin DNR. You ruined tradition. I was 14 years old. I used to buy a back tag. This was your license. Your back tag was green. It had your identification on it and your tags in there on your back. You went out and you shot your deer. You went up to your deer, you tagged it, you field dressed it, you threw it in the truck. That deer had to be seen in the back of your truck, legs sticking out, antlers sticking out, something, so that if a warden wanted to pull you over and inspect your deer, he could. You'd pull up to a gas station or a registration station. There was a guy waiting there with a metal tag. You'd walk in with your thing, you'd pick it out. Monday, 9 a.m., this date, this buck. And you'd zip tie that to the antlers. He'd walk out there with that information. He has your information. He can inspect your harvest.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the eyes. Are they sucked in? Was it shot 2 days ago? Is the deer rock solid stiff and rotten because it was shot 3 days ago? What's the wound? It's gun season. Is that a bow? You know, or during bow season, is it a gun? You know, and he inspects your animal, and he puts the metal tag on it. That's the important part of it for the DNR. But what it was as a 14-year-old boy, men and women and friends and family are sitting at registration stations going, wow, nice buck. That your first deer? That's your first deer? Congratulations. And this kid at 14 years old is like, I'm a football star. Mm-hmm. These people love me. I get to brag about my deer, and I'm telling the story over and over and over again. You're sharing that camaraderie. And you get to go as a kid that shot a little 8-pointer this big, because I did, go down 3 trucks and see a deer like this that's 180 inches, and you're like, that's what's out there? That's the tradition. The old meat pole in the yard where there's 6 bucks hanging up. Because it's the brag pole. That's where the deer hang for season. They pound this 9-day tradition. This is the tradition. Well, you ruined the tradition when you got rid of the registration stations. You got rid of the back tags. You did it all electronically. Now you don't want to see the deer. I shoot a deer, throw it in the back of my truck. I can cover it up, drive home, go on my phone, send it, register it. Nobody could ever see it.
Mm-hmm.
I could have it quartered, butchered, deboned, and in my freezer ground up in a hamburger and not even register it, not even fill the tag. Yeah. How many people in Wisconsin, and I don't condone anything unethical, unmoral, and illegal, but I can't tell you how many people I can fathom shoot a deer, get it home, get it in the grinder, get it in their freezer, and don't fill their tag.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have to. You don't have to go. I was at a registration station, not hunting, but I was there. This guy came in, and it was bow season, and he wanted to get his deer registered. The business owner went out there to register it, looked at the deer. Deer's eyes sunk in, been dead forever. Had an arrow hole in it. It was gun season. It was Saturday evening at that point. The business owner's like, get that deer out of here. The guy's like, why? You're not going to register it? He goes, absolutely not. The deer's illegal. He put his gun tag on it, shot it with his bow, and if the deer was old enough that it was not shot that morning,
mm-hmm.
He's like, that's illegal. Get it out of here. Otherwise, I'm going to call the warden. He can come, register your deer. That guy boot scoot and boogied out of there because he did something illegal, and it was a check station. It was it was a manual. Make sure it was legal. Anyways, my vent is we talk about this 9-day gun season, this rush of hunting because of tradition, but they've taken all of the tradition out of it except for this melee of 600 hunters going for 9 days. But with that 600 hunters in 9 days, the deer population we have doesn't allow for an enjoyable and quality hunt. I seen 60 deer out in Montana. Not even really looking. I seen 60 some deer. I can't see 4 on my 94 acres.
Yeah.
That's a crappy quality. So what I ask of the DNRs, do you care about how enjoyable hunting is? Or do you just want to make the money? $35 off 600,000 tags. You want the money. That's all you want. Fine. I've actually known that they've had these meetings where DNR representatives were there, and they're like, we will never manage deer to be trophies. They're not interested in managing deer to have trophies up here. They're interested in getting as many tags as possible. Mm-hmm. So vent, that melee's into vent the next one. And everybody's going to hate me. The DNR will do anything they can to make money.
Yep.
They're about making money, not making an enjoyable hunt, not keeping the tradition alive, not keeping families together for deer hunting. It is not about that. It is about money. If it wasn't about money, there wouldn't be silly fines for baiting. There wouldn't be silly tags and registration issues. They're making it, they don't pay anybody to manage it anymore. It's all electronic, blah, blah, blah. But what they lost, if you look at the numbers, they lost 4%, 5%, 8% in the last couple of years for hunters buying licenses.
Mm-hmm.
So let me pull up my numbers here. Hold on. Really, tablet?
Yeah, it's just so absolutely crazy where we're at with management of the deer herd. Another management technique, while you're pulling up your numbers, it's not a management technique to sell as many out-of-state licenses as possible in either Minnesota or Wisconsin. There's no limit. There's no limit to how many out-of-state licenses they'll sell at $100 a piece.
Yep, and they'll sell them before they make sure a resident gets it. Mm-hmm. Montana residents have free reign. They can go get their tag. A deer in Montana is $300 some. What's a non-resident in Wisconsin? 120?
Yeah, so Minnesota is
24 or 34 for a resident. So up your pay. I mean, if you had a quality animal to hunt, people would pay quality money to come hunt it.
Mm-hmm.
Desirable to come here. That's why people are willing to pay $500 in Illinois. It's an over-counter tag for a non-resident, but it's $500.
Yeah.
There's better animals down there. It's worth the money. Ohio, Kentucky, all these places, it costs more money to put in because it's desirable to go there.
Yeah.
The only reason people come up here is so they can drink, sit at the bar, wear their orange, and I'm sorry if you do that. But my point is, for the people that want to hunt and enjoy the hunting, it's really tough.
Yeah.
But to the fact of losing hunting licenses or hunting sales, what did the DNR do? Between 2013 and 2014, they allowed crossbows for anyone. Why? Because it got more people to buy tags.
Mm-hmm. And more people to buy crossbows.
So, personally, don't care what weapon you use. I do not care. If it's the season for the weapon, and that's the weapon you want to use to challenge yourself, or just to fulfill a hunt, I don't care if it's crossbow. That's not my target. My target is not saying you shouldn't use a crossbow. But the DNR used it as a tactic to increase sales.
Mm-hmm.
The first year in 2014, they harvested 26,000 deer hunted by a crossbow. Based on 50% harvest numbers, that means 52,000 people bought licenses for crossbow. Now, talk about last year, 2 years ago, 2020, because we had a big surge because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
There was 65,000 deer harvested. Based on that 50% harvest number, that is 130,000 licenses were sold for crossbows. Based on $600,000 licenses for rifle, that's 1/6 increase from crossbows. So they didn't do it to make the experience better. They were losing margins. They were losing percentages for people to hunt. So they picked a weapon that was more advantageous for people to use and made it a public use. Whether before it was medical, you had to have a shoulder issue, medical issue to use a crossbow rather than a compound bow. So what I think with crossbows is becoming popular. Fine, use it. I don't care. But the fact that they get to hunt the same season as archery baffles me. How come muzzleloaders are separated from a rifle, but a crossbow is no different than an archery? They get 3 months to hunt with a crossbow. That's basically a rifle shooting an arrow. So that drives me absolutely bonkers. What I want you to notice, though, since 2014, Dylan, bow harvests. In 2014, it was 54,000 deer were harvested by bow. In 2021, we are down to 39,000. 54 to 39. But we went up 60-some with crossbows. Got more people involved. People are getting away from the bow hunting, going to the crossbow because it's more successful, because it's more quality. Nothing's better than sitting during the rut and the pre-rut when there's no pressure from the gun hunters and using a crossbow that can shoot 60 yards.
Or 100.
Or 100. The hunters are trying to find good quality times to sit and enjoy hunting, and I don't blame them for that. They're using a crossbow during a better season because they want to increase their quality of their hunt. And that's a hunter's right to increase that. But what boggles my mind is that they don't have their own season. I would completely suggest a crossbow is the last weekend in September.
Yeah.
So this year it was September 17th. The season opened. Archery. I say you give the first week to archery, Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday. Now archery can hunt all year long, basically.
Well, all season. Yeah.
All season, except they have to wear orange during rifle season. Follow the orange regulations. So archery starts Saturday, Sunday. On that Monday, for the last 2 weeks of September, you use crossbow season. Archer still can go, but crossbow goes. Then all of October is archery. Get 2 weeks into, November, rifle season. The next 7 days or 9 days, whatever it is, muzzleloader. And then you have your special holiday hunts and your doe-only hunts. And the archery finishes up. That's when the crossbow should be. It should be 2 weeks, and then it's done. Because it is a considerably effective weapon to go from 26 to almost 65,000 harvests.
Yeah.
26,000 to 65,000, and that's only in 6 years. It's gaining momentum. It's not an unfair advantage, but it's obviously a popular advantage, and they should be put on 2 weeks, just like muzzleloader. That's my opinion with that. I don't care if you use it. I would probably use it. I would probably, for opening weekend, use my bow. For those 2 weeks, grab my crossbow, hunt, but once it's done, put it away. So
Minnesota's current crossbow regulations, crossbow may be used by a hunter with a special permit because temporary or permanent disability must be verified in writing, blah, blah, blah. Got to get your permit from the DNR. Licensed hunter age 60 or over may use a crossbow during regular archery season with the respective archery license. So there's an age limit on crossbows. Licensed hunter may use a crossbow for bear or deer with a regular firearm license. So you can use a crossbow in rifle season. Perfectly fine. Or a crossbow disability permit and an archery license. So you have to have your archery license, a crossbow disability permit. You can use a crossbow in Minnesota during archery season. So they haven't gone full, everybody can use them yet in Minnesota, except for in rifle season. Youth can use them during the youth season. And hunters who are hunting with a rifle license during early antlerless deer season. And then they got some requirements for how the crossbows must be used. Basically, shoot from the shoulder, not the hip, deliver a certain amount of poundage, worth the energy at 10 feet, and be working properly and have a safety. Basically. They're a little bit more into it, but that's for somebody else to read, not me. So it's interesting that Wisconsin has gone so far off the rails with the crossbow usage, and Minnesota actually, which is normally worse, isn't quite there. Because one thing that you guys do better that I'm not going to rant on because we've got time. We're actually over an hour already. We're just getting started. But I wish our deer season was a week later. And I maybe have said this on here before. It's better to not hunt during the rut with rifles because all the bucks are out breeding. Deer, short version is bucks are meant to fight and kill each other for the right to breed a doe. You want your strongest bucks breeding your does. Opening weekend of rifle season is when the most success is had with hunting. And you kill all the bucks, they don't get to breed any does, we're done. By waiting 1 week to start hunting, you let all the big bucks breed, now you start shooting them. But we don't do that. Why? Tradition. They say, oh, it's always been that week. Actually, in the 70s, it was a week later, but we don't talk about that. And it's too cold. Everybody's got heated tree stands, man. Everybody has a heated tree stand now.
It's not any colder than Wisconsin.
Nope. Is Wisconsin tougher than us, Minnesota? Really? Are we going to stand for that? Wisconsin's not tougher than us. No, they're not. No, they're not. He's full of crap.
We're full of beer and alcohol when we're sitting in the tree stand anyways.
That's true.
So I will point this one out because this is part 1. I assume we're going to have part 2 and 3 of this.
We need to have a part 2 or part 3 because we can complain all we want, but if we don't provide solutions, we're no better than anybody else.
But one thing I want to point out is this. In Wisconsin, I don't trust my DNR to manage the deer herd to make me have an enjoyable hunt. For me and my family to enjoy the sport of hunting, seeing animals, having good opportunities at good quality animals. I don't trust the DNR focusing on my best interests.
Mm-hmm.
My best interests are controlled on my property. And I manage my property and the herd on my property to what I want. Okay? That means I got to pass up deer, fine. If that means I have to create habitat to create more deer population, I need to do that. Because I currently have no faith in the DNR to do what's best for me. They paint this picture that they're doing the best for all of us. But humbug to that. You don't care as long as you make your money and sell your tags. Sell your tags. After that, you are not interested in managing for trophy whitetails.
Yeah.
Fine. I'm going to control it on my end. I'm going to push the boundaries. I'm going to push the gray area so that I can enjoy my hunting because I can't trust the DNR. So, I would recommend anybody listening to this to think about that. Talk to your neighbors. Let's create a QDM group of management within our property, within our neighbors and properties, to make rules and regulations because Buffalo County's doing it, Trumbull County's doing it. These neighbors, they're doing good quality QDM. They're agreeing to terms and conditions. They're working together. Mm-hmm. They're going outside the DNR's confinements and creating, and that's why big deer are being shot down there.
Yeah.
Because they're doing good quality management. Talk to your neighbor. Quit doing this. This is my deer. This is my property. Work with each other. The bigger the chunk, the bigger the group of hunters. Mm-hmm. You got to change some old guys on the old ways. Don't just shoot the spike. Let it grow. We want bigger animals. If you want a big animal, you can't shoot a small animal. Blah, blah, blah. It's hard. But the more people that we get at Dylan and my age, at 30 years old, and our grandpas are, retiring from hunting and our dads are getting out of it, kind of, we can start implementing this and teaching our kids to manage it ourselves to what we want.
Mm-hmm.
One more number. Well, more numbers, but one more fact. Total harvests in the state of Wisconsin during the 9-day gun season. 2007. 518,000 deer were harvested in the 9-day gun season in 2007.
Wow.
The next year, 451,000. About a $70,000 deer drop. 2009, 329,000. Almost 190,000 deer difference in 2 years. What happened? I know what happened. Doe tags out the wazoo, earn a buck, Shoot a doe, then you get your buck license. Boom! Shoot the first brown thing you see. 600, almost 500,000 deer were harvested in 2007. How many licenses were sold?
Yeah.
If it was still 600 licenses, that's almost 100% success rate. Is it still only half the hunters? They're just shooting 2 deer, shooting a doe, then shooting a buck? Is that what happened there? Since 2009, the average, based on what I can look at here, is about 320,000 deer a year during the 9-day gun season. Our worst was 2019 at 291, and our best was 2020 at 339. I can only assume 2020 is high because there's more hunters out. If you look at the hunting licenses sold, it was probably high too. Probably the percentage matches because of COVID. Mm-hmm. People had time and were able to go hunting. But what I'm trying to get at is they got it down to this 300,000 number, and they think that's good. Sell 600,000 licenses, harvest 300,000 animals. There's just enough deer to make everybody buy tags, but there's not enough deer to cause any problems with highways or department and blah, blah, blah.
You guys still hit 16,000 deer with vehicles last year.
Yep. And that doesn't include bow. That doesn't include the crop. I mean, it says total harvest, but that's based on 9-day gun season only.
Yeah.
So if you add another 100,000 to each one of those numbers, all I can say is if you want, look at your property, look at your hunting experience, look at your hunting camp, figure out what you want from that, and then you need to get there. Do not rely on the Wisconsin DNR to give you your best interest in mind. They do not care. They want to sell tags, make money, and get revenue.
Yep.
They don't care about the deer quality, the hunting experience, and they sure as hell don't care about you.
Ditto for Minnesota. Same thing. So,
fair.
Sounds like we really hate the DNR. We don't hate them. We strongly dislike their actions, and we think it can be done better. So tune in next time when we tell you how it could be better. We'll have answers. We promise.
I have a 5-year way to fix it. And the 5 years will not be the perfect situation. 5 years are going to borderline suck. I don't know if they could be worse than what we have now, but 5 years are going to be hard. Mm-hmm. But after those 5 years, we will be, in my opinion, I say Wisconsin, would be the premier opportunity to hunt. We can sell resident tags for $150. We can sell non-residents for $500. They can still make their revenue, and we all can have a better experience hunting. But we got to get through the 5-year plan that I have first.
Yep. And I also have a good idea for a QDM club that I've talked about many, many times. Not calling it QDM. We're not endorsed or in touch at all with Quality Deer Management Clubs of Minnesota or the MDHA. We're not a member of either of those for reasons that I will maybe disclose at another time. But tune into our next episode when we give answers to our complaints and try to fix it. Because like I said, if we're just complaining, we're not fixing anything. We got to have answers. We did a lot of complaining. I only complained on only 2 pages of this book. I could do a lot better. Next time. No. We'll try not to complain anymore. We'll try to come up with solutions. But we needed to get some stuff off our chest. So, thank you for bearing with us. Congratulations everybody on the buckboard. This is being recorded after it's finished, so we can't say the winner here. Or this is being recorded before it's finished. It's going to go up after it's finished, so we can't say the winner. But congratulations to whoever won and all of you that won prizes. So we look forward to potentially doing it again next year. Right? Maybe?
Absolutely.
All right.
We're going to work on it better this time moving forward.
We'll give it more we'll call it something better so it is easier to identify with people that are not in northern Wisconsin.
There you go.
Because I never even heard of what a buckboard was. It's a big buck contest here. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Find us where you found us. You can find us TikTok, Facebook, whatever, wherever. There's lots of ways to find us. Maybe by the time this comes out, we'll have Twitter, if Kyle doesn't get mad at me. Just go to YouTube, Facebook, or TikTok, search 10-Point Whitetails. You'll find us. If you have any questions or comments that you don't want to send on Facebook, or you don't have Facebook, you can email us at 10pointwhitetails@gmail.com. 10 points is where it starts. It's not like at 10-Point Whitetails. It's 10pointwhitetails@gmail.com. And or leave a comment on YouTube. Spotify is one of the better ways to listen for just audio version right now, unless you have YouTube Premium if you're fancy. I'm not. Did I plug enough? Did I ramble enough there? I think we got
it. Look forward to our live Q&A/rant on Facebook soon.
Potentially next week. We got to check our schedules. But potentially next week. Every Friday at 7 p.m. a new episode comes out. But if we are going to do a Facebook Live, the YouTube and Spotify podcast app will be delayed a day or so, just because I have to do stuff to edit and whatever. So they'll be delayed, but yeah, I think we're good to go. So we'll see you guys next time on Lessons of the Woods. See ya.